Tonight's 97th episode of Elizaviews, whining about movies, the end of our Bondathon, is brought to you by the first annual Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival. Elizabeth wants to know,
where's your movie? Have you made your movie? You still have a little time. Get her done.
how can you say no to that? All right, Elizabeth, we're at the end of our... the pictures...
man.
You know, it happens sometimes. I don't know what to say.
It just disappears.
It disappears. It gets... Yeah. This is the end of our James Bond-thon.
Aw,
And we have a special guest.
we do.
One half of the official couple of the Burnettwork. A returning
Yes.
guest.
Yes, a returning
Claude.
guest. Wow.
His second episode of Elizaviews Whining About Movies. Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, and your sommelier of cinema, Robert Meyer Burnett. But you didn't come to see me, just like I don't come to see me. I come to see this lovely creature right here. And who might you be?
I am Elizabeth Gwendolyn Bell, the ace, the arbiter of cinematic excellence, and the
Enchantress of entertainment. And we finally come to it. We've now watched all the Bonds, every actor that played James Bond in the official Bond series from
Yes.
Eon Productions.
Yes, we
Albert
have.
Broccoli's Eon Productions.
Yep.
And this is the last. This is the 23rd James Bond movie, and it's the third film starring Daniel Craig as James Bond,
Right?
which is sort of interesting because the first two films in his franchise, well, in his tenure as Bond, were him becoming James Bond.
Right.
And then this movie is kind of, he's been James Bond for years.
Okay, honey, we're going to get to that.
All right. Okay, we have to have wine. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Let's have the wine
Okay.
first.
Well, okay, we'll have the wine first, and then we'll bring in our guest.
Yes.
All right, well then, let's pour it up. What do we have here? We have Asado Cruz Malbec, Valle de Veco, Mendoza, Argentina. Ooh, it's an Argentinian Malbec.
It's Malbec.
So why don't you hook me up with your glass here?
Pour generously, please.
Oh, okay. Don't I pour generously? Is that a
Not
generous
always.
enough pour?
Yeah, that's perfect.
That's a pretty good pour. These are huge glasses. Come on.
They are.
These are giant glasses.
Which is why I don't feel guilty drinking a full glass, because it looks half empty.
It looks half empty. Well, let's, first of all, I think we bring on our guests before we have a toast, so we can have a virtual toast.
That's right.
A virtual toast with our guests. Well, so you know him, you love him. He first joined us when we talked about Spike Lee's masterpiece, Do the Right Thing. Claudius himself is here, joining us on Whining About Movies. Welcome to you, sir. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Hang on. Wait,
So,
for some reason.
I'm here.
There we go. Now we got you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. Hopefully you guys can hear me.
Yes, although it looks
There's a
like
delay.
you're out of sync a little bit.
Oh boy. Not great. I don't know if it's these AirPods again.
You were
that are
great
causing
until
the-
you put the earbuds in. Maybe if
Yeah, and I'm not even hearing them through the earbuds. The earbuds are you still there?
yeah, we can still see you and hear you, but it's just for whatever reason you started to lag.
Okay.
Oh,
Now you're good.
Hopefully.
see, now you're good. It was the earbuds.
Excellent. Okay. I'm going to keep them in my hand.
Yeah.
They won't move from here.
Yeah, but you have to drink too, so
So what we were
Okay.
saying is, welcome Claude, for a second time guest on Whining About Movies, who joined us for Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. So we drink to Claude
Thank you very
and
much.
his better half,
here's two.
Candida, and of course their son Spencer.
Thank you very
Cheers.
much. And here's to you too. Thank you for having me.
It's great. Well, you and I have been going back and forth on this particular movie for a long time. I'll flat out tell our viewers I'm not a big fan of this movie. I actually flew to London to see it in 2012 because it's the 50th. It was the 50th anniversary of the James Bond film franchise. And just to start us off, I'll just say flat out, I didn't like this movie because Bond repeatedly fails, as I've told you many times, throughout this whole film. Now, I will say this. This is the most beautifully made of all the Bond franchise films. It's gorgeous to look at. The cinematography, Roger Deakins knocked it out of the park. What did you think of the movie? What did you think about it? How it looked?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, this is the 23rd James Bond movie. Let me ask you. You have not told me.
I have not told you.
I tried to get it out of you.
Yes.
I wanted to know what you thought of this film as you watched it again. Had you seen this movie before?
I have.
You have. Okay, you did see it.
Yes.
So, what were your first impressions of this film?
Well, I mean, can we get into the talking about it before I reveal exactly how I feel about it?
Okay, well then, Claude, what were your... I mean, I had high expectations. Sam Mendes, obviously, Academy Award-winning director. He'd won for American Beauty. He had made Road to Perdition. He really, he wasn't just a journeyman director that was sort of part of the family. And with these movies, they brought Martin Campbell back to introduce Daniel Craig in Casino Royale. And they brought Mark Forrester in to do Quantum of Solace, another very experienced director. And Sam Mendes coming in to do this. How did you feel about the Bond franchise going into Skyfall?
Well, so I'll tell you. Am I still in sync?
Yeah.
Is there a lag?
You are.
Okay, great. I watched Quantum of Solace over and over and trying to love this film. And I love the beginning of Quantum of Solace all up to the opera scene.
Me too.
I watched Tosca, I love it. And then a movie completely falls off. And we don't understand that's due to the writer's strike. So years later, so Bond starts as a young 00. And then 7 years later, he's this old aging agent. And Sam Mendes, he leans heavily in The Dark Knight. He's influenced by this. And
heavily,
in The Dark Knight,
too heavily in my mind.
Too heavily. And he sees it in the same way where you don't ever get to see Bond just go on a mission and be that awesome Bond. So I'm with you there in terms of that con of this movie. This movie's got, not only does it have Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins with a beautifully shot movie, you've got Dame Judi Dench. Let's talk about the Laurence Oliviers, the BAFTAs, the Oscars, the Tonys. You've got Ray Fiennes, Tony, as well as, Oscar nods and a BAFTA. So you got amazing cast of characters. Naomi Harris, just amazing.
And Ben Wishaw's the new Q.
Yes. And I think I love all the roles. I saw Skyfall and it did what it was supposed to do. It actually rebooted the franchise. And Roberto says that, he wasn't in the mood for a reboot, but it reboots it because Quantum of Solace was so bad in terms of what it did to the franchise, really damaged it. And so what they did is they create a film and not just a Bond film. And it actually talks about themes. So this movie's got Empire. It discusses actual intelligence concerns, this human intelligence versus signal intelligence. It talks about aging, faith, Bond's sense of purpose, and Bond's love. And it's the first Bond movie to have a Bond girl that's over the age of 70, and it's M, and the entire movie is about M's relationship with Bond and Bond's relationship with the nation, the Empire. And with M's passing, he picks up the torch. And he's on the rooftop, he's got the bulldog, and there's so much symbolism in that, which other Bond films don't have. But I'll pass it back. There are many questions, but I'll keep there.
Everything you said, I completely agree with, and I think all of that is great. Then after everything you said, I just wish they didn't have Silva in this movie. I didn't wish they had an ill-conceived Joker with a nonsensical plot, and he basically has superpowers that make no sense. And the real problem is everything you said about this being a film is absolutely correct, but as a Bond movie, I think it doesn't work at all, because you have a, well, we'll get into that, but
Yeah,
we are into
I mean,
it.
I see what you're saying, and I don't completely agree with that, but then I also don't completely agree, with it being a great film. I don't think it's a horrible film. I liked the idea of an agent seeking revenge. But this was a really heavy story. There were no light, goofy parts that kind of belong to a Bond film. But with that said, I didn't hate the story.
Well, it's not that. Look, like you said, the story is a big part of the film as well. I mean, so obviously at the beginning of the film in Istanbul, Bond is going after Patrice, who has stolen. I mean, there's been a thing, whether it's a knock list like the Mission Impossible movies, this idea that apparently everybody likes to save all the names of their agents in the field in one file.
One hard drive.
One hard drive, which okay, that's a conceit, but that seems to be a little short-sighted as far as the intelligence agencies are concerned. Well, let's go with it. So this one hard drive has been stolen, and Patrice is there, and the movie opens mid the whatever missions happen. It's gone foobar. Bond arrives. These previous agents that were on it have been, well, one's dying, one's dead, and Patrice has stolen this hard drive. And in a fantastic opening action sequence, on the ground, on the rooftops of the Grand Bazaar, on a train, there is one of the most smashing, literally and figuratively, Bond openings ever, as Bond chases Patrice, and we don't even know the name. I don't think we know the name of Bond's assistant. No, fellow He'll come back.
There
You disappeared for a second. The woman who Naomi Harris, who later is revealed to be Moneypenny, but a fellow agent, is on the case with Bond on the ground, and there is an incredible action sequence. And how does it end?
How does it end? Oh, Bond gets shot,
and falls off the train. Beautiful Daniel Kleinman credit sequence. Did you like Adele's theme song?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
It was
one of the
amazing.
best ever.
Really harks back to, I mean, look, I love Another Way to Die from Quantum of Solace. I inexplicably to me, everybody hates that song. I love that song. Alicia Keys and Jack White, I thought, killed it. I don't know why everyone hates it. It's one of my favorite Bond songs. But that said, Adele crushes it, won the Academy Award for this song.
Yeah.
And Daniel Kleinman comes back and what's that?
The title sequence is amazing.
Amazing.
Yes.
Daniel
And
Kleinman, after
good.
again with Quantum of Solace, Kleinman came and was introduced doing the opening titles after Maurice Binder in GoldenEye, and then for whatever reason, Mark Forrester used his own friends to do the opening titles for Quantum of Solace, which I think was a mistake. But Kleinman comes back, and this and Spectre, he crushed it. Those opening titles are great. But then, to me, the movie kind of goes a little bit pear-shaped in the sense that 3 months have gone by, and you're supposed to believe that Bond, in his death, is on the coast or on an island somewhere playing drinking games with a scorpion in a bar and sleeping with rando women. Like the mission wasn't
Bond
over.
sleeping with rando women?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he knows them. But a bunch of randos in the bar that he picks up. But it's like, this was not. I'm like, Bond, what are you doing? You didn't finish the mission. I understand you got shot off the train by Moneypenny, but why would you do this? Why would Bond just, well, I'm dead, I'm gonna go. Not only am I gonna go enjoy my life, I'm gonna go drink myself into oblivion and feel sorry for myself.
Yeah, I didn't like that part. I thought it doesn't fit with Bond. I get what they were doing, but I didn't like that part.
I mean, not only that, but Bond is really concerned with the downed agents at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
You know, and he's constantly asking, are they okay? He comes back and asks, what's going on with them? And it just seems like it went foobar, he got shot off the tank or the train. But I just never bought in the film that Bond would just abscond. Well, he would leave. How do you feel about that?
Okay. So, all right. full stop here. At the moment that M does not trust Bond to complete the mission, Bond feels betrayed. And it even takes him back to his childhood as an orphan when he loses his parents. This is the circle of the movie. This is a part where
I totally get the connection.
But they don't exactly hammer this home, though. I mean, you're reading a lot. You're reading a lot into this.
Well, I mean, there are clues throughout. Even in the opening sequence,
I know.
You get clues that there's going to be a lot of death in this, which is not truly a Bond theme.
But that's what elevates. I understand it elevates the movie, but the thing about it is in the opening of the film, she's nervous. I mean, she's done something. This is her fault. Whatever has happened, and she's on it. She's like, I've got to get this back. She's done something wrong, and it's not Bond's fault. He doesn't screw this up. These agents are already dead when Bond shows up on the scene. So M has done something not good.
But the question of Bond, why does Bond stay in Turkey? Which, by the way, Empire, the UK Empire, Turkey Empire.
Right.
And Bond stays there because at that moment he's betrayed. And he now takes it out on M. And he has this path where he can become Silva. Because Silva was once here. And I
think this is all great, but I don't think this is actually.
Oh no! You can go back to the documentary. He is.
Yeah,
Silva
I see
is
the connection.
Bond.
What you're saying, I do. Uh-oh.
Wait, you froze up a bit.
Can you hear
us?
Oh.
You're back.
Oh, you're back.
I'm back.
Good.
So okay, keep going. No, you can't say documentary because you gotta. That's something else that they can add in. I mean, I'm looking at the text of the film.
Looking at the text of the film, Silva is Bond. He offers Bond. We're talking about Lucifer. Too many of these. Lucifer, being the fallen angel. That's what Silva is. He is what Bond could become. He is exactly Vader when Luke goes inside of the tree and he sees Vader. The tree is telling him, this is what you can become.
Sure.
Anakin is Silva. Silva is this character that, hey, I was an agent just like you. And you don't have to live in a world where little old women tell you what to do. You can create your own missions. And by the way, you can crush countries behind the back of a computer. That's what Q tells him. So the movie itself is about, well, how do empires fall? Why do things change? Through innovation. So Bond, there's this whole thing where Bond goes back into the past in order to defeat Silva because Silva's so technologically advanced over him. So in order to even the playing field, he has to bring him back to Skyfall where Silva has no advantages. Where he just has to be in a slugfest, where Bond
plus it was
excels.
on his grounds. His space. He knew there was an arsenal there, even though he didn't know it was sold away, but he thought there was an arsenal there. So it makes sense to me why he went to Skyfall. That makes sense.
But okay, all of these things are great if I was in a literature class. And I think you're absolutely. These are all themes that are definitely there, but the problem is the execution. I think of this film betrays this message because you're still dealing with the paradigm of the Bond film, and there are things that within this paradigm they have to make sense, and I just can't believe that. Like I know you're saying that M betrayed Bond and. What she's doing is her job, take the shot, and it isn't like she turned her back. In Silva's case, he was left for the Chinese in '97 to be tortured, and interrogated. That's not what M is doing here. They're in the middle of a mission, in the middle of a tense situation, where Naomi Harris has said, "Look, I've only got seconds before this train goes into this tunnel, and I can't. This is it." And like Bond does say, I will grant you this, when he does go back to London and confronts M in her apartment, he does say, you should have you should have trusted me to finish the mission. I mean, that's
You should
definitely
have.
there in the text. But it's still, if you are a fan of the Bond franchise and you've watched 22 of these movies and you sit down to watch Skyfall, to see Bond just because he feels like, oh, woe is me, I don't like what the commanding officer did, and I got shot. I don't believe that the character of James Bond, as established in 22 previous movies, would go drink himself into oblivion. I mean, maybe he would be at Monte Carlo playing Baccarat, and if he's going to pick up rando women, they should be rich heiresses that, are wearing the best perfumes and the best dresses. I mean, he's in a, I understand he doesn't, I guess he's still in Turkey, he's still in Istanbul. And like you said, I never considered the fact that, you're dealing with the Ottoman Empire that's no longer an empire. So that's definitely, but they could have done more to accentuate that, to make that more present in the story.
The bulldog and being being on the roof at the end, it's so symbolic. But I'll also say that I think that Bond, number one, Honey Rider, definitely not an heiress. Just a girl.
But I mean, that's because he's in the Caribbean. It's like Bond. But if he's gonna go retire and his death, he's also moping. He's mopey Bond. Like, woe is me, I've been betrayed by my country, and that I just don't buy that. I don't buy that.
Shot. So you're shot and you fall off a bridge.
But he's shot and falls off a bridge because an inexperienced woman who was the only person left that took the shot. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I just don't. It's hard for me to buy.
She didn't want to take the shot because she knew the chances were that she could hit Bond. But
she's she's under orders. This is good. But she's under orders. It's her superior. She can't not take the shot. She's been given a direct order. And
true. Bond wouldn't have taken a shot.
No, Bond would have taken the shot, and he would have made that shot.
I'll say that. Remember, this film is about Bond and M.
Right.
So Bond and M have a falling out, and Bond disappears for a while. When he realizes that she's in danger and the service is in danger, he returns. And the rest of the movie is about Bond protecting M. Now, you say that Bond fails in protecting M. Now, we all know that at some point Judi Dench has to retire. So her ending has to be big. So that's one conceit you have to give the movie. M is going to die some way. We know Luke was going to die. We know M's going to die somehow. So M dies in this grand movie. So, however, Bond is fighting Silva, and he's constantly outmatched by Silva. He draws him into Skyfall, and then he takes out a platoon of special operatives with nothing but Albert Finney, M, a DB9, a DB9 from 1962,
and some Home Alone traps.
Yeah, and Home Alone. Yeah, he's and Macaulay Culkin.
Silva brings in he brings in air support, and he takes it all out. So Bond proves that by himself, Bond is superior to everything that Silva's bringing. So the only thing at the end is that yes, she takes a hit somewhere in the house, and she's bleeding out, and she's gonna die. So does Bond not succeed in saving M? Yes. Does he succeed in saving the service? Yes. And that's what Skyfall is about.
See, okay, I wish that for me the rest of the movie supported that, because with all of these themes, I just can't get behind the fact that somehow Silva, who relies so much on technology, first of all, you never even see what he's been doing. He's got this whole abandoned island that he got people to leave, and he's got these computers, and you just assume that he's doing something. He walks out and he plays the homoerotic card, and Bond's like, sorry, I disarm you by saying, how do you know it's my first time? So that didn't work, which I loved. I thought that was great that Bond turned the tables on him. But the thing about Silva is, when the idea that he's going to be brought back to London, and somehow he's put all of these things in place already, that he has the ultimate contingency plan to allow him to bomb the tubes in the right time in the right place, and that he has all of these operatives running around. It turns him into more of a supervillain than Carl Stromberg with his Underwater City and Spy Who Loved Me.
Definitely.
And it's where's, like, he's using all this technology. We don't see that. He's got muscle, but it's like once he's been removed from his lair, it's assuming he didn't even work in London. He was in the Asian bureau of the service, and they turn him into a Joker-like. It's totally Dark Knight. I mean, it's completely
Dark Knight.
Completely Dark Knight, and the plausibility of it all, for me, it tends to not work. And I feel that all of these themes could have been better stated if the film and Silva was a more plausible antagonist, because he becomes a supervillain that can just do anything. Like, for instance, if he had air support, where did they get that gunship from? A military surplus store? I mean, it's not like the UK. They're in Scotland. I mean, that thing crossed a border and
stole an aircraft. They stole the aircraft. They impersonated
but again, and I get all that, but it's like, why doesn't Bond put her in an impenetrable bunker surrounded by the best SAS operatives, on a base somewhere? I get it, because it's all metaphoric and it's all going back to Sky.
But he can't trust them. He can't trust anyone but him and M. It has always been, the entire movie's about him and M.
I know.
She's the only one he trusts. So that's why her betrayal is a big part of the movie. You didn't trust me to do it. Now I'm pissed off at you. Now I'm coming back to save you. I'm coming back to save you. But I'm learning that the service is more important than just us. And so that's essentially what the movie is about. I didn't take the path of Silva where I could have. I took this path. That's essentially the movie in a nutshell. So yes, I agree with you completely. His Joker-like, being able to predict the train schedule and plant those bombs is absolutely ridiculous. But so is swallowing submarines and missiles. And next to every Bond plot, every villain of Bond has always been absolutely ridiculous.
Well, yes, but here's the difference. This is like super heavy story, as opposed to older Bond, where it was very lighthearted. There was some comedy, some goofiness, and this is just like really, 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 really heavy.
It is really heavy.
Definitely hairy.
And
I agree with you.
Was it? Let me ask you this. I mean, was this movie fun for you to watch?
I mean, the action is really, really interesting and all that stuff, but it didn't feel like a true Bond film, like I said, because it's like so heavy, which I don't hate those kind of movies. I love those kind of movies too. It just doesn't feel like a Bond movie.
In a way, the movie that you're describing is a fantastic movie that I wish that I had seen, and I think it might have worked better if it was set up. I mean, for me, Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace are the beginning of Bond's tenure as Bond. It would have been really interesting if they had a mission movie that was like a typical Bond mission with Daniel Craig, but it ended in such a way where the end of the movie was M's betrayal of Bond. We could have seen that the Bond, the sort of the paradigm, Bond movies are almost a genre unto themselves. Mm-hmm. And if there could have been a whole movie that at the end subverted the Bond franchise that led into Skyfall, I might have been able to buy into this, because it just seems like, look, all of the things that you're talking about, all the even the stories, like, I don't think the audience even necessarily knows they're in Turkey in the opening. It really doesn't matter where they are, but if there was something that was inherently Turkish about what's going on, other than the location, and they could have referred back to the Ottoman Empire, and they could have referred back to, I mean, we know that it's Turkey. But if they had set up that idea in the beginning, so the audience would be able to be like, oh, okay, because we did see Istanbul and World Is Not Enough, and it would have been, I think the points that you're making are good, but they're not supported by the narrative I mean, this is a general audience movie, and we're talking about it like we're in a college literature class discussing the deeper themes. And I think that the paradigm, you have to still honor the Bond paradigm.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I think that this, number one, they saw that scene in Taken 2. So they already saw that whole Grand Bazaar scene. And I think it's also equally ridiculous to ride those motorcycles, but it's a Bond film.
Yeah.
So those are typical Bond tropes. I think that when I saw it, I got all that. And they reached out to Sam Mendes because they wanted to make a film like The Dark Knight that stretched the genre. So in the same way The Dark Knight did, this did. But what I really wanted to say was that this is really funny for you and I, because you liked The Last Jedi. And for many, this is The Last Jedi of the James Bond films. For all the reasons you liked The Last Jedi, we are arguing the opposite sides of the argument. I hate that movie because Luke Skywalker never got his time. And he's not the Luke Skywalker that I want to see. But for you, it's a beautiful movie, and you got to see drama and action that you never got to see. And we're arguing both different sides of it. I like this Bond. I like the world that Bond exists in here because it's closer to reality.
Right.
In terms of, like we talked about with Mr. Robot and Homeland, it's closer to the real world than Austin Powers or Thunderball, which no longer make any sense whatsoever.
Well, you're not wrong, but I think you can't take a movie that's the 23rd film in a franchise that's been running for 4 decades. Well, this marks the beginning of the 5th decade of the franchise. That has, you've almost convinced me now, because now that I'm thinking, I'm like, Look, with Last Jedi, I don't think Last Jedi is a great movie. I think the Luke Skywalker story is an interesting story, but to me, again, like with this movie, the whole chase sequence, the whole Canto Bight sequence, if the movie was reversed and it started in Canto Bight with Rose Tico and Finn on their own Bond-esque mission looking for Benicio del Toro, and then they bring him back and give them a chance to shine as characters where we meet, that could have worked. But the problem with Last Jedi is that in the middle of this chase sequence, these two characters leave and go off on this adventure in the middle of a tense chase sequence. Doesn't work at all from a narrative standpoint.
Well, that's great. But the central problem for The Last Jedi for me is that Luke wanted to kill his nephew. And that this Luke is somebody that and the central problem for you in this movie is that Bond doesn't seem like Bond. And
right. I agree with you there.
I love that you're realizing that dichotomy of how you feel about that film versus this film. I think that's hilarious.
I think Skyfall is a much better film though than Last Jedi is.
Yes.
The progression of the plot of this movie, I believe. I just don't believe in the methodology of the villain. I have a hard time. It's strange credulity for me. But there's a few other things that I find to be rather distasteful. And Severine, who's one of the most beautiful of all the Bond girls, I really don't like the way that she's... Look, Bond films are known for there's in Goldfinger when Bond slaps Dink's masseuse on the ass, her death, the fact that she was a sexual slave at like 12 and that she's in the thrall of Silva, and she's, of all the Bond women in the Bond franchise, she has earned Bond to liberate her.
Yes, and I agree with that. I was really upset with that.
The way that scene where she's basically executed, I think, is really distasteful. Mm-hmm. And I mean it's
and it's so unlike Bond not to save the beautiful woman. He could have saved her. He could have found a way, because he always has some magical way of getting out of tough situations. He could have saved her.
And the quip that he makes, oh, what a waste of good scotch.
Yeah.
I know it's a small thing, but if he knew that the cavalry was about to roll in, 3 giant, British gunships with firepower to take out Silva's whatever was on that island, he couldn't have kept her alive for a few more minutes. And that is
especially the scene in the bar where he sees how scared she is when she brings up Silva's name or talks about her boss. And you can feel that he has sympathy for her. He wants to help her. Yet in the end, he doesn't help her. It didn't make sense.
Not only that, he comes to visit her. He just jumps into, and I have never had a problem with Bond sleeping with all the women he can, because he's a sensualist. That's why he knows how to drink champagne at the proper temperature, and you know he knows it could be his last day on Earth, so he is unrepentantly somebody who seeks out the sensual pleasures of life, because that's all he has before he could die. And
he's a bon vivant.
Yeah, he is a bon vivant. But this, I mean, she's arguably, you know, and then the one thing about the Craig movies, the wife of the guy at the beginning in Casino Royale, they have found some incredibly classically European, timeless beauties in these to be in the Craig franchise. And I guess, I mean, Severine is, I think she's like half Asian and half French. Berenice Lim, I mean, it doesn't get any better, you know, and I guess maybe because I like her, I just found that scene really not Bondian.
Yes, a lot of people do, but remember, Jill Masterson dies, Bond survives, they kill her, but they leave him alive on the floor. Oddjob just hits him over the head.
Right.
Then they unceremoniously kill her sister a little while later, but Bond survives, and they keep him alive.
But it's the way it's presented.
He had a chance to save her. He could have stalled. He could have done anything to save her, but he didn't even make an effort, is the thing. Like, if he had made an effort and she had died, okay, but he didn't even make an effort, which is so not like Bond.
Agreed.
And I agree with the scene where he comes on the boat and they immediately have sex. Like, he knows that she's been a slave for so long, and I just don't see him doing that.
Yeah, I mean, you think about, like, one of the great things about Quantum of Solace is Olga Kurylenko is a fantastic Bond girl, because they never sleep together, and she's capable, and she's on her own mission, and yes, that relationship is never compromised. And I thought that was a really mature relationship between the two of them, and she is smoking hot. You're waiting for them to hook up, and she doesn't. And I thought that was a really mature way to handle it. And then in this movie that follows it up, it's something I found really strange. I mean, the homoeroticism between Silva and Bond, and I mean, to me, it's one of the most, how she's treated, her death is one of the most misogynistic moments in the Bond franchise. And not necessarily that Bond's the misogynist, but that the film itself has a very deep moment of real misogyny, true hatred of women, and,
wow,
and that bothered me. I have to say, it did bother me.
It was definitely an ill taste after you dropped that she'd been a sex slave, and him showing up in the shower was sort of weird. She says from the beginning, the moment that they fail to kill him, she knows she's dead, and she says that. And if he knows the cavalry is coming, why not? How can he not, stall just a little bit longer? Definitely a weird sequence.
Yeah.
Those things are definitely problematic about this film. But they do show up in other films. It is, and even in Quantum of Solace, the one he does sleep with, they kill right afterwards in Bolivia.
Right, but it's if the villains kill, but I have no problem if the villains kill a woman and Bond can't do anything about it. If Bond, that doesn't bother me. But the way this is set up, with Bond, shooting her and Silva just coming in and blowing her away, the fact that, I don't know, I agree. I mean, all bets are off. And you could say at the beginning of Goldfinger, which we watched, when Bond sees a thug coming up to take a swing at him, in the eyes of that belly dancer, he throws the belly dancer in. But to me, that doesn't mean Bond doesn't love women. It just means he's doing what he needs to do to survive in a mission. He's not going to be.
And she betrayed him. I mean, that
she
guy
did betray
was
him.
in the room on purpose to get him. So
she did.
That's a little different. And he didn't kill her. He just pushed her
Yeah, she took a glancing blow because, I mean, she had it coming after setting up Bond. Bond was going to get killed in that moment. So, but I mean, I don't mean to harp on this, but and look, Javier Bardem is fantastic as Silva.
He's a great villain.
And he's such a great actor, and he's having so much fun. The two of them. I would like to have seen more scenes with the two of them together. Mano y mano, like do what they did when Brian Fuller did Hannibal between Will Graham and Hannibal Lecter. Like, you could have played up the fact that for whatever reason, make that homoeroticism carry out through the film, and really Silva has a love for Bond, and make it like, I'm trying to save you from yourself and save you. Like, there's a reason why the empire, the British Empire, is waning. It's no longer the power it was. And like you said, those are all great themes that I think that they should have put more of in the film.
Rob, that would have been way Dark Knight if Silva and Bruce Wayne had gone back and forth, throughout the entire movie. Silva is a force of nature, and that's the other theme of this movie. It's technology. It's a question of, again, what Bond says to Q is like, well, first Q says, I can do more damage on my keyboard than you can do, and Bond says, well, you need somebody there to know whether or not to pull the trigger. And it's important in the real life too. We go through the same thing also. You always need eyes on. And it's you can't just do it from behind a computer.
No,
and
that's because we exist as physical beings in the physical world. And even though you can do a lot behind the screen, you still have to, as a person, step out from behind that and live in the world. So
you have to see a target and know in that situation whether that target needs to live or die.
Well, also,
and that's a personal call.
I think absolutely true. Like, now we live in a world where you can be Ethan Hawke and you can be flying drones in Las Vegas all the way across the world in Afghanistan, and you can make life or death decisions and then go to the casino and have a drink and gamble at night. Whereas I think Bond would say, you whether you're holding a gun or a knife, the decision to take a life or not needs to be boots on the ground. I need to be able to feel the sweat coming off my target's body to know whether or not I'm going to choose to end their life. And I think part of the modern age is that when death has been so mechanized and so distancing, where we can now, I mean, we're going to get rid of, you're in the Air Force, we're going to get rid of our planes. We don't need why have pilots? We're going to have computer-controlled drone technology or nanobot swarm technology where you can fill a house full of nanobots that can strip people of their skin in seconds and no one is the wiser.
Why have pilots, Rob? Why have pilots?
Well,
why create a $60 million aircraft and then train an individual to go fly it? Because they're not actually going to have eyes on the target either. So
well,
that is
true,
a raging.
Wouldn't it be nice? I mean, I still believe that the human element is. I know that is not where we're going in the future, because, like you said, even in Star Trek, our beloved Star Trek, in space combat, the ships would never even see each other. I mean, it's such a conceit of Star Trek that they're flying right next to each other, but they wouldn't even see. They wouldn't even be in visual range. They're thousands and thousands and thousands of kilometers, if not sectors apart. And I agree. I mean, aerial combat. I can't wait to see Top Gun Maverick, because I wonder, is anything going to even happen in this movie? Where are they going to fly? What are they going to do? It's still going to be a throwback to the way we had dogfighting in the 50s. And with prop planes.
Well, Tom Cruise is going to make a good movie, and he's obviously the 55-year-old, a captain in the Navy who hasn't made admiral because he's just too much of a maverick in order to be promoted, and he's not a people person. He's going to do things his own way. Yeah,
because that flies in the chain of command. And then they let him at 55. He's still flying. He's still flying. Well, what is it? F-18s they've got in this movie. You know,
Super
he's
Hornets.
gone from the
Fine.
F-14 up to the F-18. I mean, I still love the F-14 because it's still like one of the sexiest airplanes with its wings that come and go, you know, in and out. But hey, the Hornet, that's fine. But or not F-22s. But look, I'll watch that movie because I love watching jets fly around. I'm in. But in this movie, I mean, when you come back to the Bond franchise, I mean, this is the 50th anniversary of the Bond films. Like, let me ask you, Elizabeth, what Claude's describing is really a legit. I mean, that's a heavy movie. That adds a gravitas to the Bond franchise that it's never had.
Right, it does.
And I don't think you're wrong. The question is, does a franchise like James Bond benefit from this kind of gravitas, or is subverting? It's so funny because, you know, the movie that you've almost brought me around, Claude. You've almost brought me around, and that's why I think it makes Spectre even more of a failure. You know,
Yes.
that it like, James, I'm the architect of all your pain. Really? What have you been doing except sitting here in the desert with your? I mean, it just makes Spectre that much more of a failure because if they could have had the kind of,
you make these films, it's a problem when you make these films one at a time and you don't establish an arc, you don't have a plan for it. Then it's the problem with the Bond films is that, okay, how do we top the last time? Well, the last guy tried to rule the entire planet. How do we top that? And we just keep going bigger and bigger, and it gets sillier and sillier. So you've got to find a way over multiple movies to take the same actor and tell a bigger story that's more interesting. That'd be number one. And to tie this to Top Gun.
oh,
I guess we're not tying it to Top Gun.
Oh, this is good. He'll come back. Okay, tie this to Top Gun.
Top Gun. So these guys. So let's go. The lessons of failure. In Vietnam, we failed, and that's why we have Top Gun, so that the pilots could be better. So our best movies sometimes do deal with failure and the lessons that we learn from failure. So Infinity War is one of our best MCU movies. This Skyfall is one of the best movies of Bond, and the opinion of the box office, of the critics, of a lot of people, because you know what? Failure does teach you something. And what does Bond learn? And a lot of this is about this Bond learning to be Bond. So this Bond did not have a love of authority or the chain of command, and still doesn't. But there's a reason why he fell in line under M, because there was not only a relationship or respect, but there was also a love. And there was also this question in this movie of their relationship and what that means to the Empire and to the service.
Right.
So those things are they snap for me. I like those aspects of this movie.
Well, I mean, hearing you say this, I'm telling you, you're bringing me around on this. I honestly, I do feel that now that I haven't quite your eloquent defense of this movie. Obviously, you're correct. I will concede that you're absolutely correct in everything that you've said. I just wish, I guess I can't let go of, and let's face it, it's not like the Bond franchise is sacrosanct. It's not like, I mean, we have, well, with No Time to Die, 25 movies, and, you know, maybe 5 are really good. You know, really good. And I love the Bond franchise, but I love what it represents. And I honestly, I think there's an argument to be made that it really is a relic of the 1960s that they've kept alive. I mean, I've always said that the Bond franchise in the 60s was setting a trend. But by the 70s, Live and Let Die is a blaxploitation movie. Man with the Golden Gun is a martial arts movie. You know, it's following popular cinematic trends that were of the time, because, you know, when you've got in the case of Live and Let Die, when you've got movies like Shaft and Superfly and and you've got these characters, they're a little bit more interesting than Bond, really. So hey, we'll go to New Orleans and we'll bring in Yaphet Kotto and Baron Samedi and Voodoo and Haitian, and you're supposed to be like, okay, Bond, you know, let's do that. And then of course we have martial arts stuff, because Bruce Lee movies are big in the 70s too, and it's like, it wasn't until, to me, the first great Bond movie of the 70s was Spy Who Loved Me, because it went fantasy. You know, it came out right after Star Wars came out, whatever that thing was. You know, if Bond had gone from On Her Majesty's Secret Service to Spy Who Loved Me, I would have been that would have been great. But then we had to endure. I mean, people look back fondly at Live and Let Die, and I'm convinced it's only because of the sound, the Paul McCartney song, because the movie, you know, it's problematic now. But
there's also Jane Seymour in the movie.
Yeah, and yes, that's and Diamonds Are Forever. Not good. not good. But so the Bond franchise, I mean, I would dare say that Skyfall is probably, as a film, certainly the most accomplished of the entire franchise. Whether I loved it or not, from a film perspective, it, you know, there's no bad rear projection, there's no goofy editing. I mean, it's a beautiful movie. So
I would say that. So I had some core questions for this whole thing. You know, why is Bond different? What is this film really about? Does Bond fail, and does Silva succeed? And all the, and I think we've answered a lot of those questions. So you talked about why Bond, why this Bond is different. You know, there's no opening gun barrel sequence. Silva's objective is as revenge.
By the way, you
Elizabeth
went
said,
out of
not
you went
to the
out
world.
of sync.
Oh boy! Am I back in sync now? Testing.
Not really.
Am I back
Not
in sync?
quite.
Oh boy!
That's okay. We can still hear.
Okay.
Yeah, we can. It's kind of cool. It's almost like you're a foreign film.
Yes.
You're
You're
dubbed
dubbed.
foreign film.
So I think that the core theme of this movie is the relevancy of Bond as a franchise, and when M is quoting Tennyson, she's defending the Bond franchise.
Yeah.
Have you seen that in a Bond film before?
No, I've never actually.
It's just beautiful.
I love when she's quoting Tennyson, and it becomes, you know, it's a voiceover, whether you're seeing imagery over what she's saying. I mean, look, obviously the aspirations of this film are way beyond any others in the franchise, and as you astutely pointed out, this film is the highest grossing Bond movie, and it transcends the genre of James Bond. It's just that, I guess maybe I wish that the franchise, I would have hoped that Spectre, which I had such high hopes for.
Yep.
And it was such a monumental letdown. And it's almost like Barbara Broccoli. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Barbara Broccoli. Her job in life, she grew up in a family that makes James Bond movies. And that's what literally her job is to make, and Michael G. Wilson, her stepbrother, that's what they do. Their family business, since 1962, they inherited it from their father, is to make James Bond movies. And I'm thinking to myself, in all of human history, what family has ever had a better job? I mean, sure, people made more money. Hey, you could own Walmart, right? But this family makes Bond films. And I've always been, as much as I love the franchise, it's always bummed me out that they don't have more quality control. That it's such an uneven series of films, and I can't understand how they followed up Skyfall with Spectre, and it's the same director.
Same director, yes. But why does Spectre fail? Spectre fails, in my opinion, because it gives the fans back all the tropes that they were looking for. And it's nothing but a series of tropes.
But it's not even
there's no point.
It's tropes without a story.
Yes.
I mean, it's what's interesting is you talk about the idea. We have a real problem in that we got all of this incredible information technology. Call it the social media age. And
yes.
and we got all the technology, but our morality and our ethics and our sense of self and our understanding of what it means to be human did not progress at all along with this great information. We can now talk to people. We have the best ways of talking to people that we've ever had, communicating that we've ever had, and yet we as human beings have not learned anything about how to communicate with one another. We have the technology, but we haven't learned how to use it. And we don't even know we don't even know how to be human anymore in the face of all of this technology. We've regressed. The lack of respect that people have, that nobody has any patience to be contemplative about art or literature or anything.
Yeah.
Social media has wiped all of that away, and Spectre could have continued on with those themes from Skyfall and talked about, okay, what does it mean? Talk about the Bond franchise. What does it mean to have all of this? If spycraft is now going online and you can destroy countries with one laptop, which, by the way, has been proven by what's happened to this country, whether you believe it or not, over the last 10 years, it's amazing what's happened both internally and externally, and we're the target. No one is trying to well, that's not true. People are trying to destabilize other governments, but I think what's amazing about all of the bad actors in the world, they just fuck with the United States because they can. Like, what? Yeah, let's play with Americans. How do you want to disrupt social media today? Click. I'm sure it's the hobby of countries around the world. Iran's like, yeah, let's fuck with the Americans today, and they just do it because we're the biggest target, and yet we're the most susceptible to it because we can't even get our own act together. But that's neither here nor there. But Spectre could have dealt with those issues.
It definitely could have, and unfortunately, it's an imperfect movie that has elements that I think the boardroom scene could have been amazing, and then he turns around and he says "cuckoo," and then it becomes a chase scene, and you're like, "What just happened?" Right. I thought we were heading for some high drama, and you just threw it out of the window for another chase scene that is meaningless. So when you start providing the fans the chase scene in the gadget car, at the sake of the actual drama of why am I here? Why is this character important? You start losing things. So there's always a balancing act. There's a number of things that you said that I want to comment on. One of them was a personal story about Spencer. So I told you earlier that I took him back to
You fencing. Should say Spencer's your son.
Sorry, Spencer's my son. He's 14 years old. So took him fencing. We've taught him to sail. We've had him skiing, learning different languages, learning cybersecurity and programming. And someone would question, well, why are you having your son do all these things? What's the point? And I really thought about it. I'm like, why do I do these things? Because I grew up in an era where I admired James Bond and the fact that he knew the flower, and that he understood how to fire this gun. Even though it was an archetype and it was a myth, this guy was well-rounded. So he knew the precise temperature that you should drink a Bollinger 53 at. And I thought, wow, that's pretty awesome. We admired those guys, and we thought it would help us later in life when we're facing off with Blofeld to know how to play scratch golf. So we emulated that. And now there isn't a lot of respect for that knowledge, for that breadth. So we are successful. So I'm going to tie it in. we are susceptible to disinformation because we know so little and we're so narrowly focused in small areas.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how to determine fact from fiction because we don't understand 3 independent sources of information and how to corroborate a story. So we get on a Facebook, we read a headline, and we get outraged. And we're like, and we know that if we read a headline that sounds too good to be true, we're immediately like, someone designed that for me. Let me go research that. To others, they're like, oh, wow, okay, that's exactly what I want to hear. And that proves why I hate that guy. And so that's why Cambridge Analytica was so effective in picking out the voters and micro-targeting the voters that they need to get at. So a long way around, Bond, Kirk, Indiana Jones, these were heroes for our age, and they defined us, and they helped us to aspire to be something more. We wanted to be in Starfleet, and we knew that we had to be the best of in order to get in the Starfleet. Now it's more of, hey, don't judge me, bro. let me be me.
Yes.
I what's funny that you say that is what I loved about James Bond and what I believed in my own life is that the more you know about the world, the more the world will amaze you. And the more that when you walk out and you like, I don't understand, like nowadays we saw this year the rise of the idea of the Karens. The Karens have risen up, and when I look at Karens, the thing, it's not just, oh, look at there's some suburban white woman who's bitching and moaning and complaining. To me, the great tragedy of the idea of the Karens is they're so not interested in the wonder of the world around them. They want the world to be the way they want the world. And my whole philosophy of life has always been that you can't expect the world to be anything the way the world, like the universe, is indifferent to you. So when you go out in the world, it's up to you to know as much about the world as you can, because not only is it a wondrous place, but the more you know about it, the more amazement you personally are going to feel as you move through your life. Like if you know if you know which caviar to eat, if you know, oh, this is from the Caspian Sea, and you can pair it with the perfect champagne or whatever, that sensual pleasure that you're going to get is also going to help you get laid, because the lady you're with is going to be like, wow, this is very impressive. I can't believe you know this. And so the more you know about the world, the more it opens up the wonder of the universe to you. And now I feel that nobody cares about that anymore. Everybody wants the immediate gratification of what? Of self-affirmation that you're great. Here's a trophy. When really it's much better if you hike to the top of a mountain. You could spend a day and you're looking down on the vista that you're seeing before you, and you can realize just, this is amazing. Through plate tectonics, the mountain I'm standing on took hundreds of millions of years to get to where it is right now, because I understand the geography of where I'm at. And I feel that we've lost the problem that we have, especially in America nowadays, is we've lost the wonder of day-to-day existence, and how we're surrounded by amazing awesomeness. But I'd rather be on my phone getting a like on my Instagram post than walking outside and looking around. But I gotta throw it to you. You've now watched every Bond, starting in 64 with Goldfinger, all the way up to 2012.
Yeah, and I'd seen them when they...
Right, but my question to you is, what have you learned watching the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and now the 2000s? We've watched 50 years of a pop culture icon. How do you think about the Bond franchise now?
Well, I don't know. I think with each generation, it tried to evolve and change, and I don't know. It's gotten more serious lately, which I don't know if that's a bad thing. it's definitely still interesting to watch. And I know you would like Bond to end, but I don't want Bond to end. I want it to keep going.
Well, I don't want Bond to end. I would love it if somebody could come along and make Bond relevant. I want to see Bond become relevant, and I
well, that's what they're trying to do.
Well, with Spectre, I didn't really.
Okay.
I
mean, but the franchise is known for having duds, so you have to expect duds.
Look, I have a lot of expectation with No Time to Die. Cary Fukunaga, I loved True Detective season 1 when they hired him to do this, and I know he worked on the script a lot. Word on the street is this is one of the best Bond films that's ever been made. I can't wait to see it. So,
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So, but what have you? I mean, to summarize our little mini Bond-a-thon to celebrate the fact that we're not getting No Time to Die until now April, maybe. If a fast-track vaccine that's going to make somebody a lot of money, we're all going to take it. Sure, that's smart. Not saying it's not. I believe in science, but let's let the science come in and be definitive first. What do you? I mean,
I love the franchise. I grew up with it. It's been there my entire life, basically, and so it's nostalgic for me, and it's also interesting. I want it to keep going.
Now, your dad obviously escaped from Serbia, Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
During the Cold War.
Well, he in the 60s.
Okay, well, this Cold War. I mean, you had the revolution in Czechoslovakia. I mean, there was all kinds of, but so nowadays you know people that you go to school with that talk about being Marxist and all of that. What is it like for you? I mean, this is a franchise that was really born out of when it began. It was Smersh. It was the Russians that were the villains.
Right.
And then it became Spectre. But what is it like for you? Like, did you watch Bond films with your dad?
Yeah, so this has brought up a lot of memories and thoughts about my dad. He passed away 15 years ago. And so even in my art, I'm doing a giant painting of my dad. I mean, just because we are watching Bond, it really and I do think about my dad almost daily, but just because we've been watching the Bond films, it just really made me even more, missing him more and thinking about him.
Because he really escaped.
He did.
I mean, he escaped to the West.
Yeah.
I mean, he might have been like General Koskov in The Living Daylights.
No.
We're gonna, they put him in a little tube and shoot him out through the oil pipelines to the west.
Not quite, but okay.
Or General Orlov in Octopussy. The West is decadent and divided. I mean, I love General Orlov in that movie.
I don't think it was like that, but he did have to pay somebody to get him over the border safely. So.
Well, we have a lot of letters and people are sending in questions, so I'm gonna.
Hey, Rob.
Yes.
I do have a question of Elizabeth. Did you guys watch Atomic Blonde, and what did Elizabeth think? Atomic Blonde.
You know what? We have not seen that.
No, what is that? Is that a parody?
It's Charlize Theron. No, it's a movie that's set in the 80s, right?
Oh.
Set in the 80s, and she plays
80s or 1990.
Oh, I want to see that.
I do want to kick ass. They're the most awesome fight scenes. It's practical effects. It's Depeche Mode. It's awesome. There's definitely some twists that we might have a problem with, but I think Charlize Theron in this role is absolutely amazing, and it's peak 80s music. It's about the fall of the wall and the aftermath. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I need to watch that.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'll get that. I want to see it. I haven't.
You haven't seen it?
No.
Ah.
I'll order it. I'll get it.
Well, maybe we should do a week of kick-ass women movies like Kill Bill and this movie. What is it? Atomic Blonde.
La Femme Nikita.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really interesting.
That would be a really great.
Well, we've got some tips. Jeff Yerke says, "Hey Rob, first off, Mrs. Y says, hey, and bid you well. I just wanted to update you all that I'm a full tilt boogie on the Post-Geek Singularity book cover design process. Wow, I intend to bring all of my small brain to bear on this creative book cover. Live long and prosper, the Yerk Man. Well, Jeff, your posters for the film festival were great. And so I look forward to what you do. And I love the fact that you're always telling me about the status of your wife. I think that's fantastic. I look forward to the day when I meet Mrs. Y. Timbula the Spider Monkey, all the way down under, comes from the land down under. This is nowhere near a favorite Bond film for me. In fact, I'd go so far to say as I disliked it. It is, however, far better than some other entries in the franchise that came before. It's no View to a Kill or Die Another Day, after all. Yeah, I mean, you know, I would defend the movie. I mean, the film, from a filmmaking perspective alone, it dwarfs that. And Tim goes on to say, are you going to be doing Star Trek The Motion Picture on Monday, December 7th? I think December 7th is a Tuesday. If not, I'd like to suggest Tora. That's pretty good. That's, you know, I know it's a day. Both of those days will live in infamy, I think. But so we got that. And we have a couple of letters. We actually have a lot of letters. And this one's really long. I mean, there's everybody was very impassioned about our Bond look. So they wrote these really long letters, and maybe I'll save these for tomorrow, but I'll wait until, because these are really, really long. A lot of them are, but hang on. Omar94 says, Rob, this letter is for the Skyfall episode of Whining About Movies. Since you were discussing Skyfall, it got me thinking about your previous whining episode for GoldenEye. I've read the original GoldenEye script, but felt the film was better only because I found the script too long and it dragged. However, I really liked what happened in it, so the original script could have been better than the final film if it was tightened, as it was 155 to 156 pages, and could have worked better somewhere between 125 and 140 pages. Having read it, Pierce Brosnan would not have been right for that Bond, as it was more serious and realistic than what we got. Every time I kept picturing Brosnan, Daniel Craig showed up in my head, as the script felt more in line with the gritty and realistic Craig-era Bond films. I haven't read it in some time, but a few things I do remember. The opening in the French... Well, we lost Claude. I don't know if he's going to come back. Here, should I... Claude, come back, Claude. Here, I'll click over here. The opening in the French countryside is on a train, and it reminded me of the train fight at the end of Mission Impossible 1. M is a man, Natalia is called Marina, Trevelyan was older, around 60, and it was a mentor to Bond before his betrayal. Did I already read this? A flashback scene with Bond in the field with two other 00 agents, and the two 00 agents get killed, if I recall. Bond riding a horse to escape from the bad guys in Moscow. I think that was where it happened. Anyways, I did like the story and characterization overall. I just felt it dragged because of the script's length. I think the script could have made a better film if the second draft was the same story and the characterization just tightened, but that's me since I found GoldenEye to be just okay. Here is a link to the original GoldenEye script. Ooh, I'll put that in the live chat. Here you go, everybody. Here's the original GoldenEye script. There you go. I think we lost Claude. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, we did. We lost him.
Also, I don't feel bad, Rob. I'm not a big Skyfall fan either. I tried, but I just could not get into the story. I remember seeing it in theaters with my dad, since he is a big James Bond fan, as his favorite is Sean Connery, and I was really getting bored watching it. The only Daniel Craig Bond film I have liked is Casino Royale. Hopefully, No Time to Die is good, but who knows what will happen. Thanks, and live long and prosper. Well, thank you for writing in. Let's see what else we got here. This comes from Cal, Swag Props. Cal in Malaysia. Hi, Rob and Elizabeth. The Daniel Craig Bond era has indeed had its ups and downs. Being a massive Timothy Dalton Bond fan, I was a bit upset that he didn't come back for a third film, even after the disappointing License to Kill. So when Craig was announced as the new 007, I was skeptical. By then, I'd only seen Craig in supporting roles like in Elizabeth, Tomb Raider, and The Road to Perdition. as well as the lead role in Matthew Vaughn's excellent Layer Cake. And even then, I thought he looked more suited to be a Nazi thug than the suave James Bond agent 007. That changed, of course, when I saw Casino Royale in 2006. I love the movie so much I saved up and bought a silver Sony Ericsson K800i, the same phone Bond used in the film. I couldn't afford his Omega Seamaster, of course. Casino Royale also introduced my eldest nephew, who was 14 at the time, to the Bond franchise. He loved the movie so much he couldn't stop talking about it. When he saw that I had bought the phone, he immediately knew what it was, and it was then that he realized he had found someone he could discuss the movie with. I started lending him my Bond DVDs, and he eagerly watched each and every one of them. Casino Royale was always going to be his favorite, as that was his gateway into the franchise. But thanks to my influence, his second favorite was The Living Daylights. When Quantum of Solace came out, we both agreed it didn't quite live up to Casino Royale, and we both loathed the theme song, Another Way to Die. But that didn't waver his fascination for the films. One year, the Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra had a special performance of the music of Bond, and my wife and I brought him along. I lent him my blazer jacket and tie, and he proudly told us he felt like James Bond when wearing the suit. During the concert, he hummed along while the orchestra played the Bond hits, and he was especially ecstatic when they finally played the theme to his favorite film, Chris Cornell's You Know My Name. In 2012, Skyfall came out, and we both thought it was a return to form after the disappointing Quantum of Solace. Yes, Rob, despite the failures. We would speculate where his next adventure would take Bond in the aftermath of Skyfall as we eagerly counted down to the next installment. In 2013, my nephew graduated with a diploma in automotive design, and he enrolled to a degree program for the same field. He celebrated his birthday the same weekend as his diploma graduation ceremony. A few days after that, he was taken ill and was hospitalized. He was diagnosed with leptospirosis, a rodent-borne disease that's still pretty much a great health risk in a developing nation like Malaysia. My wife and I visited him at the hospital on the day he was admitted, and I brought along my Casino Royale paperback for him to read while he recuperated. Sadly, he never got to read it. His condition deteriorated right after that to the point the doctors had to put him in an induced coma while they administered treatment. Unfortunately, he never regained consciousness, as a few days later, after multiple organ failures, he gasped his last breath and succumbed to the illness. He was 21 years old. It was a difficult loss for the family. For me personally, I had lost not only a dear nephew, but also a fellow Bond fanatic that I could talk with about our favorite secret agent. Spectre came out in 2015. As I sat in the cinema watching the gun barrel sequence appear on the big screen, I couldn't help but think of my nephew and how he would have loved to be there watching the film. Spectre unfortunately turned out to be a massive disappointment, but that's another story. I just hope, with the upcoming No Time to Die, us Bond fans would get a fantastic and fitting closure to Craig's tenure. Thanks for reading my letter, Rob and Liz. As always, I hope you both stay safe and take care. Best regards, Cal, a.k.a. Swag Props.
Wow.
All these people have these sad memories of the Bond franchise. Cal, this is an amazing letter. I want to thank you for sharing it with us. I mean, this is what the Post-Geek Singularity is all about.
Yeah.
That we get these kinds of letters. Wow, let's see. Yeah, this one's really long. Well, maybe this is specific to... I'll read this one. These are always good letters. Jason Webster writes in. Hi, Robert. I hope yourself, Elizabeth, and the members of the Post-Geek Singularity are feeling chipper as we sail through another week. This year is just going by so fast, I'm afraid to blink because if I do, I'll miss Christmas. Well, Skyfall marks the end of our journey through the Bond franchise with whining about movies. From Goldfinger to Skyfall, and it's been a wonderful take this down memory lane. Indeed, it has brought back so many fond memories of watching the films on television or at the cinema with my late father. Not of the movies themselves, also the conversation about them with my dad after watching them. That's what movies can do. Bring people together through a shared experience. Also, the films are celluloid time capsules reflecting the times in which they were made. They provide a glimpse into just what contemporary popular culture and society were like during the period in which each film was produced, and how it grew and evolved over time. Finally, the film showed just how each actor was the right choice at the right time to play the world's most famous and popular fictional secret agent. We tend to forget or take for granted just how good Sean Connery, Roger Moore, and Timothy Dalton were as actors. Each provided their own interpretation of Fleming's character and brought their A-game in doing so. Principal photography began on the 7th of November 2011 and was completed in May the following year. Though scheduled to take 133 days to shoot, the filming was completed in 128 days. Location shooting took place in England, Turkey, and China. Scenes were thought to have been shot at Hashima, an island off the coast of Nagasaki, Japan, were actually filmed on an island off the coast of Macau. The shots were a mixture of sets and computer-generated images. The film's climactic scenes that were supposedly of the Bond family estate in Glencoe, Scotland, were actually shot at Hankley Common, 560 hectare nature reserve in Surrey, England. A full-scale model of the Bond family home was made from plywood and plaster. Released in October of 2012, the film was a huge commercial success, earning $1.1 billion from a budget of $200 million US. I agree with you, Robert. The failure of Skyfall is how the story continually shows Bond failing. Well, just look at how the story unfolds. Bond is AWOL after he's shot in Istanbul, during which there's attack on MI6. He loses the key lead to the attack named Patrice, Ola Rapace, Nomi Rapace's ex-husband, by the way, in Shanghai because he inadvertently kills him. He loses Patrice's girl named Severine during his mission because he makes it too obvious. Oh, he's back! Claude is back! Claude's back. Let me put him back. It's good to have you back, sir.
Nice to be back.
And ultimately leads to him failing to save M from cyber terrorist Raul Silva. We were so used to seeing Bond radiating charisma, charm, and confidence as he swaggers through his resourcefulness and sees him successfully complete a mission. All the way through Skyfall, he appears a jaded, broken down, and morose shell who has to continually pick himself up off the canvas. He seemed in dire need of being prescribed antidepressant medication. The thing is, didn't we endure that of Bond in Quantum of Solace? Skyfall is a downer of a movie. It's more like a Shakespearean tragedy than an edge-of-your-seat spy thriller.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of the scarred psyche Bond. The film does appear to be covering well-worn ground we've seen covered better in the earlier films. Bond gets caught, villain tells Bond his whole plan, Bond escapes and thwarts the plan, usually while showcasing Q's gadgets that destroy the villain's hideout or lair. The only difference is that in Skyfall he is obliterating the Bond family estate in Scotland and not the villain's lair and taking down Silva and his men. I agree that the Bond films featuring Craig as 007 have been guilty of being reactionary to the Bourne and Mission Impossible franchises. I totally agree with that. Bond walks around channeling Jason Bourne. The only difference is he's wearing expensive suits and drives a cool Aston Martin. I agree that Javier Bardem seems to be channeling some type of Cesar Romero Joker than a Bond villain. Don't get me wrong, Javier Bardem is a good actor. It's just the way the character was written. The positives of Skyfall are Thomas Newton's score, Roger Deakins' gorgeous cinematography, also the editing. Stuart Baird and his daughter cut this. It's amazing. It is neatly paced and solid performances from the supporting cast. Judi Dench and Ralph Fiennes are terrific. However, the best thing about Skyfall is the theme featuring Adele's smooth and powerful voice. The song is way up there with the best themes of the series. Shirley Bassey's Goldfinger, Tom Jones's Thunderball. The theme for Skyfall deserved the Academy Award for Best Song. Mm-hmm. To me, Skyfall is an okay film and certainly not the worst of the franchise, featuring Daniel Craig as Bond. That spot's reserved for Spectre. I can see why some people like the movie after all. The film did win 19 awards from 60 nominations, including 2 Academy Awards. Yeah, but it won an Academy Award for Sam Smith's whiny, just, the writing's on the wall. No, it's not. Fuck, shut up. I hope yourself, Elizabeth, and the cool members of the Post-Geek Singularity enjoy the remainder of the week. Sincerely, Jason Webster. Look, man, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have popped off that way, but I have to tell you, that song, I mean, look, as a lifelong fan of the Bond franchise, a Bond theme song sets the tone for what you're going to see. And I have to say that while I actually really appreciate and admire Billie Eilish and Phineas, her brother. They write and produce their own material, and there's a great video on YouTube about how they made Bad Girl, the song Bad Girl, which I think is a fantastic pop song. And the way they created it, I think Rolling Stone put it out as part of their... It's amazing. So Phineas and Billie Eilish are two brother and sister talents, family talents that are amazing. But again, you know, and I haven't seen it in the context of the movie, but both Sam Smith's Writing on the Wall and Billie Eilish's No Time to Die seem... They don't exactly get me pumped for what's to come next.
That's true.
And
hey, Rob.
Yeah.
Just a thought. Have you heard The Weeknd's Earned It? It was used on the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack. Every time I listen to this song, I think that it was one of the discarded songs that they did not use in Spectre.
Oh, well, you know what? You've just given me an idea. I'm going to go find that song, cut some Bond, a 25th anniversary Bond appreciation to that song.
I love that song, and I'm like, why didn't they use this song?
Well, it's interesting. That happens a lot. You know, clearly on like The Pretenders, Where Is Everybody Gone? You know, in Living Daylights, where has everybody gone? Wow, 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 wow. I mean, it's a total Bond theme, and they went with that Aha song because after Duran Duran was so after View to a Kill was so popular, they went with Aha. And what's interesting is John Barry, his last score was he patterned the actual score of Living Daylights more after the Pretenders music than Aha because they didn't get along. So
wow.
So, you know.
Speaking of John Barry, if you ever want to do Candida Loves Out of Africa, I don't know how Elizabeth feels about that. Yes. You guys feel about that, but yeah, John Barry, any John Barry film, Dance with Wolves, Out of Africa,
yes.
You know, go down the list.
Well, Dances with Wolves and Out of Africa are two of the most iconic film scores I think ever written. I mean, I love... A lot of people say that within his scores, Barry is a little too repetitive with his melodies, but come on, man. I mean, Out of Africa, my God, what a score that is.
Yeah.
It's
Somewhere
so
in
good.
Time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate that Living Daylights was the last John Barry score, and I think, look, I do love Thomas Newman's score in Skyfall. I think the score is... I'm a huge Thomas Newman fan. I think he's great, and he does a great... It's not a showy score, but it really is a beautiful score. He does some great stuff with it. And, I mean, I love David Arnold too, but he's emulating John Barry. He's like John Barry's heir apparent, whereas Thomas Newman brought the same way this movie brings these deeper themes into the Bond franchise, I think the musical identity of this film is also much more mature.
Yes.
So
definitely.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like we've barely let you talk.
That's okay.
Well, no, I mean, I would be curious now that we're done. You know, how do you feel about Daniel Craig as Bond? Is he as sexy? Like, who do you think as a woman? Who's the guy? I know you're gonna say Sean Connery. I know, but try and be you like Pierce Brosnan. You clearly think he's very handsome.
Yes. Okay.
Like, if you get to spend the night with one Bond.
It would be Sean Connery.
Really?
Yeah.
It'd be Sean Connery.
Yes, it would. For sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Take Me to Bed or Lose Me Forever?
Yes.
All right.
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. Well, what if he was not as attentive to your needs?
Of course he's James Bond. Come on, man.
Yeah, but he you know, it's not exactly like James Bond's not necessarily a giver.
He is a giver.
All right. Well, I can't argue with that. Maybe you see something I don't see.
He said, after all.
Well, Zed was a murderous thug that just got into Zardoz's head.
He learned to be a lover.
Rob, they're all smiling afterwards. Jill Masterson's got the biggest smile on her face afterwards. He's clearly a giver.
He's a giver. He's a giver.
All right.
Come on, man.
All right. Okay.
I think he's a master linguist.
So, okay, but in that said, of all of like what are what are some of your favorite traits for the different actors that played Bond? Like you take us through. You had Sean Connery, George Lazenby, Roger Moore,
Yeah.
Timothy Dalton, and Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig.
I feel like Sean Connery and Roger Moore and Pierce Brosnan felt the most Bond to me. The others, it took me at first when they announced Daniel Craig, I really was not feeling it at all. I was like, he does not look like a Bond at all.
No, but why did you feel that he didn't look like? Because he's too thuggish, or
he's very thuggish. He's blonde. Okay, he has the blue eyes. They all do, right? But he had the blonde hair, very short. His ears kind of stick out. He just didn't look suave to me. But then, when what's the first one he did?
Casino Royale.
Yeah.
He's very suave in
After
Casino
you
Royale.
see that movie, you're like, oh my God, yes, I see him as Bond. But, when they announced him, I was like not on board at all until that movie came out. So then he grew on me after that.
Elizabeth, did you see Layer Cake?
No.
I have that. It's so good.
Oh, yeah?
It's so good. It's a crime thriller, and he's great in it.
Oh.
The same guy who directed, the same guy who produced, it's The Kingsman. You love The Kingsman.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to see that. Do you have it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I would watch that.
Well, maybe we should do that too.
We should.
So, I mean, and I would ask you, how did you feel like watching the progression through 5 decades of history? How did you feel like as a woman now looking back from today's perspective, how do you feel about the Bond character in terms of how he relates to women?
Well, I mean, over time you could see how they're trying to be a little more careful about how the women are treated without losing that Bond, suave, flirtatious.
Because you didn't like Cara Malloy in Living Daylights. You're like, not. This girl,
That's the only one. It was like, she had no sex appeal whatsoever. She looked like a 12-year-old boy. And it was like, okay, they went too far the other way in that film. I mean,
Well, I'm asking you. I don't know. I'm asking you.
Well, yes. That's my answer.
All right. That's okay.
Elizabeth, do you think that Bond has been a positive thing?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's been a positive thing.
You don't think he's a sexist, misogynist dinosaur, a product of the Cold War?
He was, and I feel also, but you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, we are sexual beings, and being flirtatious is not a bad thing. I mean, you can't be like, okay, this is sexist, and throw everything out to where we can't be flirtatious anymore. And
well, we're there though.
We are there.
We're rapidly turning into an asexual civilization where you have to ask. You can't even throw out a witty bon mot yourself.
You can't. You
can't be a cunning linguist.
Well, you can, but you have to ask permission first.
Elizabeth, do you find that Bond is more of an interesting person than like an Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible or a Jason Bourne? Do you think that Bond is more interesting?
I do think he's more interesting. Because he has this side of him that is very charming, and you don't get that from the other two. The other two are more action, more cerebral, more, about the mission. But Bond has it all. Like he's the man with multifaceted. He's smart. He knows all kinds of things, knowledgeable about all aspects, and he's charming and flirtatious. I mean, he's like the ultimate man, I think.
Ethan Hunt is almost asexual. Like Bourne and Ethan Hunt, they've sort of,
they don't have the suave.
Right. Well, they're but in their films they're not allowed. I mean, Mission Impossible 2 has some pretty Tandy Newton. She's
Yeah.
got stuff going on in that movie. I
Yes.
don't know if Tom Cruise does, but Tandy Newton does. I mean, when they're tangoing and like, wow. I mean, it's and John Woo directed that too.
Yeah.
But
The worst one.
yeah, I know, but she's good. There's good stuff in that
good.
movie. It's just it's
She's
yeah,
good.
it's not. So I mean, okay,
But
you know, I always do talk about the Bond franchise. Do you think that you say that you want it to continue?
I do.
So
want it to
how do you
continue.
think that the Bond franchise can continue into the 21st? Well, into the 26th Bond film, moving past No Time to Die, knowing the way society is gone. How do you keep Bond contemporary? Do you think Bond has to change, or should Bond as a character go?
Well, I feel like that's what this film was about, like dealing with the way society is now and how does Bond survive in that world. And I think that they dealt with that in this film. So, and I'm okay with that. But it doesn't have to be so serious all the time.
Do you think humor, having a sort of a light-hearted take?
There were only 2 jokes. I counted. There were only 2 jokes in this film, and they were just quick little.
Well, one is when he adjusts his cufflinks.
Right.
That's a moment. That's, you know.
Well, that's a moment. That's not actually a joke. I mean, that's James Bond does that. He adjusts a tie when he's like driving a tank in St. Petersburg, and he adjusts his cufflinks, and you know, that's James Bond. That's what makes him so suave.
You're right. Tonally, this movie is dour. It is very serious. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard to go to jokey like Roger Moore.
It doesn't need to go back to that. I feel like as it went on, it got a little more serious. Like GoldenEye. GoldenEye was kind of in between. It was a little bit jokey, but it was a little more serious than the past films before it.
Definitely.
Well, you can't really take a woman named Xenia Onatopp. I mean, the way she kills people is she squeezes men to death.
Which is great. I love that character.
Right.
You like that?
doesn't.
See, this was missing. It needed it needed a henchman that was kind of over the top.
I don't know if that would work in the
wouldn't
the
have worked
Daniel
in this.
Craig universe of Bond.
Yeah, that's true.
It's almost like we're seeing different parallel universes of these characters.
Yeah.
You know, I did like Dave Bautista in Spectre more than I liked Blofeld. Mainly because I think the writing and the background for Blofeld was bad.
Well, and also it was really bad, and he doesn't do anything. Blofeld, there's no plan. He's like got these. He's got these people like in Flash Gordon. They're looking into these imaging things lined up, THX 1138 style. Like what? Okay, you're getting all this information. What are you doing with it? You know, you're waiting for him to do something, and he doesn't do anything. There's no plot. He's like, I'm going to infiltrate the British intelligence network.
Well, you know, Homeland does a better job of explaining what they're doing with that information than Spectre does. But I get where Spectre's going because what he's doing is Cambridge Analytica.
Right.
He's riding on the backbone of the new initiative, which is essentially what was that movie where the eye that knows everything? Well, let's call it Skynet. They're riding on the back of Skynet, and they're able to see everything, and they're able to manipulate everything.
Right.
It's what we're dealing with right now. So the movie does, at its core, deal with important issues, but they're trying to handle it in a way where you just introduced this guy, and you're trying to say he was around for 4 movies?
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, no, it's lame. But you know, I think the real disappointing thing about the spy genre, you know, it comes out of Jean Le Carré, and you look at Spielberg's Bridge of Spies, which deals with Francis Gary Powers and all of that whole the U-2 spy plane going down, and it was all about spy craft, and it was all about people. You know, it was about people and their relationships. Like during the Cuban Missile Crisis, if we didn't have backdoor spies, and like I loved it in Sum of All Fears, the even though Ben Affleck, I love Tom Clancy books. I love even Sum of All Fears. I love that there's the Russian character who is the backdoor to prevent the Russians, the Americans going to war, and we had that during the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was all human beings. It was not, if we relied on just information gathering. And I think the real bummer is that at the end of the day, in the modern age, all anyone wants to do is use all this information to make money. There's no larger purpose behind it. Cambridge Analytica was just selling a product. They're like, they didn't care. They're like, yeah, well, we're going to data mine all this. We're going to data mine the shit out of this for all of you so we can get money. Yeah, you want to topple countries? We'll help you win the election. Whatever you want. But, like, at the end of the day, what is that going to do for us as human beings? Like, how is that going to help? We have all of this incredible technology, and we're on the verge of the coming singularity, and we can do so many different things. We basically had a Manhattan Project-esque effort to create a coronavirus vaccine. We can do so many things, and yet it's all just about money. And at the end of the day, okay, you're incredibly rich, so you can buy a bigger house and a Koenigsegg car if you want that. I mean, is that really what we want as human beings? Like, I feel like,
well, that's what creates the division between good and bad. I mean, people want money and power. Those are the two things that people strive for, and that when you reach a certain point, that's what turns you into an evil
yeah, but I mean,
evil villain.
I just,
which is perfect for these films,
right? Sure, but I the Great Pyramids were ancient when Rome was at its height. Oh, we lost Claude again. Hopefully, he'll come back. Oh, so you're back. The Great Pyramids were 2,000 years old when Rome was at its height, and they're still here today. And human beings exist in a continuum. Our lives are so short.
Yes.
That I would think with all of this amazing, like, on one hand you have Elon Musk and SpaceX. 4 astronauts went from, there's now a space taxi that was made on American soil.
Amazing.
Ferrying 4 astronauts up to the International Space Station.
Rob, I used to I was stationed at Vandenberg Air Force Base for 3 years, and I watched space launches, Titan 4 launches for satellites and test missile launches. We used to think it was an earthquake, and you go out in your backyard and you'd watch the launches at night. It's absolutely amazing. There was that once a month in the 90s, and I think during the 80s they were like weekly or something like that. Absolutely amazing stuff that we're now back in space. But I want to tie it back to what you were just saying. In the Ukraine, cyber attacks against infrastructure were able to black out cities in the Ukraine back in 2012 and 2014. And we have proven that we can use cyber to attack in the ways that we actually see in Skyfall. Not to that exaggerated extent against such a hardened target, but you can definitely wreak a lot of havoc on infrastructure. And so, there is that threat that's out there that military and governments are paying attention to, but we're not using it. We're not using that technology for good and for actually informing people, getting the people that know are using it for nefarious reasons.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what's so disappointing is that we're in, I read an article today, I tweeted it out, about how we're so immature as a species that the things that are, we have all this incredible technology, but we don't have the morality or the common sense to know how to wield it in a way that's beneficial for everybody. And I get that, I understand that, but I just wish, I thought as a kid watching James Bond and growing up, I would have thought that by the time we were into the 21st century and we're, this was not a great year for anybody, 2020, that going into 2021, we should be living in sort of a golden age.
Yeah.
And I feel that we're being dragged backwards. people doubt science, and they doubt. We live in an information age that the very technology that science has created is being used to drag us back decades away from the very science, like, that created your black mirror that you carry around in your pocket with you. It's a supercomputer, and yet we'd rather be angry and give people disinformation when really, like, even talking to you, Claude, right now and doing this show on YouTube proves how amazing this technological age really is, to share ideas. You're on the East Coast, we're here on the West Coast. We're talking about a James Bond movie that we watched on Blu-ray on a plasma TV, and it's just incredible where we're living and the age in which we're living in, and yet it's so divisive, and it's fomenting so much anger, and it's destroying things rather than putting things together. And I think, if anything, that's what Spectre was kind of about. And I wish things were different. I wish James Bond was able to actually solidify the world he's been fighting for since 1962, at least on screen, and if you read the Ian Fleming novels, since a decade before that.
Yeah. Well, I do hope No Time to Die really ties it together and projects some hope into a very troubled, tortured Bond. Hopefully, I don't think he gets to ride off into the sunset. He certainly didn't after Spectre. So, and I don't want to see James Bond die, but if he does, he does. But hopefully the movie says more about humanity.
You're once again, your internet, you're breaking up. You're like Steve Austin. Oh, there, you're back now.
Back.
So let me ask the two of you.
Yeah.
Do you think, I'll ask you, Elizabeth, first. Do you think James Bond is going to die at the end of No Time to Die? Is the arc that the Daniel Craig films have been taking us on, do you think James Bond will die?
No, I don't think he'll die.
Do you have any reasons why you think that, or just think no?
Because these movies make too much money, so
Well, that's a good point.
they're going to keep going.
Well, they could always recast Bond and then go back into his career.
Yeah.
Claude?
I don't think they will kill him off.
Do you think Bond's going to die?
I hope he dies at the end, and then they bring in Christopher Nolan to do a 4-movie arc of Bond and reinvent him from the bottom up. So that's what I hope.
Well, listen, I think that we should bring this again, almost our longest episode to date. I think this is great. Claude, we have our
Bottoms up scale.
Bottoms up scale of how many glasses of wine?
1 to 4 glasses, because there are 4 glasses in a bottle.
So let's ask our guest, Claude, on a scale of 1 to 4 glasses of wine, how many glasses would you give?
Tonic?
4 glasses of Hendrix with 3 olives and a little tonic, a splash of tonic.
He drinks Hendrix, just
but he
like
also
me.
drinks it like me. A lot of gin with a splash of tonic. All right, so you give it 4 glasses. Elizabeth?
I give it 3.25.
Okay, I have to say that Claude's analysis of this movie has really brought me around. I would have given this movie, like, I think, going into this without hearing your analysis, 2.5. But after hearing your analysis, I'm going to go all the way up to 3.75 glasses. You have changed my opinion on this movie that much.
Wow.
Yeah. And now I want to go back and watch this again. Right now. Which is, there's how much more? I mean, I can't ask for anything more.
Yes. Wow. This is a great conversation, guys. Thanks. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we should do more of this. You know, we want to branch out and do different shows on this channel, because why not? And I think that it'll be interesting to try and come up with these things. I'm doing a new show about physical media with Dieter Bastian, somebody who I met on this channel lived in Germany. I didn't know him. And the second episode, I think I'll be able to drop if I finish it. I've got 2 videos. Actually 3 I have to for trying, and then doing more shows like this will be interesting. This kind of analysis, these kind of deep dives are pretty interesting. I mean, I think that's what I want to do more of. And this was very valuable. Did you feel that
this
way?
was awesome. Yeah. I think we need to do that English Patient one with the 4 of us.
Yes.
Where we get Candida.
Yeah.
That's actually a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea because one of my favorite films of all time is The English Patient. And speaking of Ralph Fiennes, I want to be Ralph Fiennes in The English Patient. Not the way he winds up.
No, you don't.
I know everyone says that. I'm like, I admire Ralph Fiennes. I count him.
He was a
Kanamashi. No.
Yeah, he was.
You mean before he gets burned alive?
Before he was.
Before he, I mean, that Nazi sellout. But anyway, still, I mean, come on.
You better come over.
No, I just love that movie. It's great.
Come on over. Hurry up. If you're gonna say bye, say bye.
Oh, is she here?
Yay!
Well, hell, yay! It's about time we get to see you.
I don't know if I see me on
Hello.
Hi.
It's the official couple of the Burnettwork together again. It's like the Avengers teaming up. Finally, we get the Avengers back. It's like having the Vision and Scarlet Witch.
Guys, I have a day job, but this was amazing.
Yeah, she's up really late for this.
I love the banter tonight.
Well, it was pretty great. Your husband definitely elevated this.
I'm shocked. No, I'm not shocked. But 2.5 to 3.75, that's pretty good. That's
you know
awesome.
what? When you have a smart man who's giving cogent analysis, I'm always open to. I'm one of those guys sitting at the meme table that says, I don't like Skyfall, change my mind. And he did. You've changed my mind. You brought me around.
I'm more interested in what Elizabeth thinks because I think I know what we think. It is far more interesting what Bond meant to Elizabeth and her father. That's pretty awesome. And everybody. We were kids. And this is what we grew up with.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing. I mean, kids today didn't grow up with Bond. It's like tonight on the ABC Sunday night movie.
Yeah.
They didn't see it like But you like the Bond franchise, and that's been fun.
I love the Bond franchise. I love it.
Yeah, which is great. Now we can go watch we watched 6 of the movies now. We can go back and watch all the 18 we missed.
The good ones and the duds and all of it.
But it's going to be fun because, I don't think, were you and I dating? Do we see Spectre together?
What year did it come out?
2015.
No.
Yeah, I don't think we saw Spectre together.
Oh.
We might have.
When? What month?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it was summer.
I think we saw it together.
Did we see it? Then it would have been December. Yeah. But we were newly dating.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's been a half a decade. So it'll be more than that when No Time to Die finally comes out. If it ever does. Maybe we'll have a Zoom watch party and watch it together,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Atomic Blonde.
Atomic Bond.
Let's get the
too much of this. And out of Africa, I'd love to hear Elizabeth and Candida talk about out of Africa.
Mm-hmm. I would love that.
It's funny. I have a picture of me when I was the manager and buyer of the laser video disc division of a chain in Seattle, and they did a story on me on the Sunday entertainment section, and I'm holding up laser discs, and the laser disc that I'm holding up to feature because it had just come out is out of Africa.
Wow.
And I've got the total 80s pompadour and the horrible tie and the awful sweater. So we can definitely start the episode with that. But I know, Candida, you've been a trooper for staying up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was giggling on your question. Favorite James Bond.
Who is yours?
I giggled. Well, I think I'm of the same opinion that Elizabeth has. I had to warm up to Daniel Craig as well. When he first came on, I thought, no, this is not James Bond. I can't see it.
Yeah.
And after Casino Royale, after Casino Royale, and other scenes, but specifically the train scene with the lamb being skewered, and they just identifying each other's backgrounds. I was sold, completely sold.
Well, by the way, that's a great scene.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean,
scene.
that scene in the train when Eva Green and him, Daniel Craig, are sizing each other up is one of the great scenes in Bond history. Well, Candida, when did you first see Bond? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, no, I can't say that I remember.
On TV, probably.
Probably 70s. when we only had three networks, and it was a Sunday night special movie. Yeah.
Do you remember the first James Bond movie you saw in a movie theater?
Probably with Claude.
Yeah, probably was Casino Royale. Or was it one of the early?
So.
It may have been a Pierce Brosnan one. Yeah, it might have been a Pierce Brosnan one. Probably was. Yeah, probably was.
I don't remember.
So Candida definitely has a thing for Scots. She watches way too much Outlander, and
way too much.
Passionate about this Jamie character. Rob, as you can tell, it's a good thing that I'm 1/8 Scotch, because otherwise I would have no chance here. Sean Connery is clearly her favorite.
Yeah.
I caught her watching From Russia with Love today, by herself. I'm like, what are you doing?
I know what she's doing.
That's
my favorite.
And the fact that you caught her, I know.
Yes, I get it.
Well, have you seen Zardoz?
Yeah, you have to watch Zardoz.
She watched Zardoz. She watched it.
I did. Yes, I did.
She did.
That's hilarious.
She loves me and the package. Yes.
The package tied with a bow. Oh! And they're gone.
And they're gone. Well, kids, on that... Oh, they're back. Why don't we end this show? First of all, I want to thank Claude and Candida for being great guests. I know they're on the East Coast, so what is it, like 12:30 there now?
Wow.
12:30, yep.
12:30. You got Candida, you got work. We got to let you go. Claude, you're a fantastic guest. It's great to have you on the show. And you guys have been so generous to us, and it's a great thrill. I think you really class up the joint, which is always a good thing. So
I think
thank
Elizabeth
you.
class up the joint.
And and the two of you together are a delight. I've got to figure out how to. I'll make different graphics so we can make them more widescreen. I'll figure that out. But we definitely have to do an English Patient show, right?
Yes, for
Yes.
sure.
And another great score. It's not John Barry, but wow, what a good score that is. But anyway, we're at the end of the show. Why don't you both take us? Do you know? Claude probably knows. Take us out, you guys. You have to say that every person you meet.
I have a buttered knife.
Oh, BL, you just made BL Alley's day. I gotta say, ever since he started doing those videos, I can't even say. That's what I think. It's have a butter knife has supplanted anything.
Everyone you meet has a story to tell. I don't know the BL Alley version of it.
It's great. Well, are you
All
gonna...
right, then everyone you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear, and all you have to do is listen.
Have a butter knife.
Have a
butter knife. Well, on that note, thank you all for being here, and thank everybody for watching. I want to thank our moderating staff. I want to thank Mike Bodden. I want to thank Greg Smith. I want to thank the Richard for running all these Zoom watch parties. I want to thank Joshua Levesque, who is here. I have to look and see everybody else. Bunyan Snipe is here from the UK. It's good to have you guys here. I think the three of them are here. We have a great moderating staff. They do a great job. Thank you very much. I want to thank everybody for supporting the channel via super chats and tips and letters. I love your letters. Thank you all very much. And we're going to be back on Thursday night with Austin Powers International Man of Mystery. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Are we looking forward to that?
Yes.
Well, and that'll be Elizaviews episode 198. And then we've got two more to 100. I can't believe it. We started this Whoever thought COVID lockdown would allow us to do 100 episodes of this show?
It's crazy.
Crazy. Unbelievable. Well, Claude, Candida, the first couple of the Burnettwork, the official couple. We should have T-shirts of the two of you. We'll cut you in for some proceeds. You got to do some funny, like the picture of you in the Star Trek uniform. I'd wear that shirt. even though it is J.J. Abrams. I mean, it's the Kelvin universe. I
went through a couple. I had the original series too.
Yeah. Well, that party you had, there was some respectable costumes there representing.
There was.
So that was good. Well, we will let you two go. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll do the English Patient.
Yes, let's do that.
All right, you two.
All right, good night, guys.
Have a good night. Have a butter knife.
You too. Good night.
Well, that was fun, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And so now, Elizabeth, I guess I'm kind of sad that our journey through Bond's over.
Yeah, me too. But you and I can keep watching.
Yeah, we can keep watching. I mean, I do have the 50th anniversary box set in our bedroom now, which is good.
Yeah.
But anyway, everybody, thank you for being here. Join us on Thursday for Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery.
Yes.
And on that note, we would say,
have a better night.
Have a better night.